My name is William, and today we turn our attention to one of the most puzzling and hotly debated carvings in all of ancient Egypt. Hidden deep within the Temple of Hathor at Dendera lies an image that, to some, looks astonishingly modern, an object that resembles a giant light bulb. Could it be possible that the Egyptians had knowledge of electricity thousands of years before its supposed invention? Or is this simply a case of modern imagination projecting itself onto ancient art? When you first look at the so-called Dendera Bulb, the resemblance is uncanny. The carving shows a large oval shape, elongated at one end, with what looks like a filament inside. It appears to rest upon a base, not unlike the socket of a lamp. Alongside it, figures are shown holding or supporting the object, as if tending to a piece of technology. It's no wonder that some have suggested this is evidence of ancient electricity. But the true story is even more fascinating. While fringe theorists see in this image a prehistoric light bulb, most Egyptologists argue that the carving has a far more symbolic meaning. In their view, the shape represents a lotus flower with a snake emerging from it, an image tied to creation myths, where the serpent symbolizes energy and renewal. The elongated oval, they argue, is not a glass bulb at all, but a sacred enclosure, a womb of creation from which life force emerges. So which is it? A high-tech lamp or an ancient symbol, misunderstood by modern eyes? To answer this, we need to examine both the evidence and the context. The Temple of Hathor is not an obscure ruin. It is one of the best preserved temples in all of Egypt, covered in religious iconography. Countless inscriptions there are tied to ritual, myth, and the cycles of the cosmos. If electricity really was being used, wouldn't we see more evidence elsewhere? Tools, wires, or even references in the texts? Yet the mystery persists because the image is unique. No other temple contains carvings quite like the Dendera Bulb. Its very singularity adds fuel to speculation. Could it have been a depiction of a lost experiment, a forgotten technology, or knowledge preserved only in secret priestly circles? Before we dismiss this theory, it's worth noting that ancient civilizations often achieved feats that seem extraordinary even today. The Egyptians aligned their monuments with incredible astronomical precision. They transported massive stones across vast distances. They mastered chemistry in the form of dyes, resins, and preservation techniques. Could electricity have been another tool in their arsenal, hidden in plain sight? But here's where the narrative takes a curious twist. Some researchers suggest that the Dendera Bulb could represent not just myth or technology, but something in between, a visual metaphor for divine energy. The snake within the bulb-like shape may symbolize the flow of power, similar to how modern diagrams represent electrical currents. To the Egyptians, this was spiritual force, not physical electricity. Yet to us, it looks startlingly familiar. And that raises a bigger question. Are we seeing the carving through their eyes or through ours? If we step back for a moment, we find that the Dendera Bulb is not the only case where modern people have seen technology in ancient art. From Mayan carvings that some say depict astronauts, to Indian texts describing flying chariots, there is a long tradition of interpreting symbols as evidence of advanced science. The question is, are these echoes of lost knowledge or projections of our own age onto theirs? At Dendera, the context matters. The carvings are located in a crypt beneath the Temple of Hathor, a space reserved for priests. This was a sacred, restricted area where rituals tied to renewal and divine energy were performed. Within this setting, the snake emerging from the lotus makes symbolic sense. It is the first light of creation, the spark of life emerging from darkness. The bulb-like outline could easily be understood as the womb of the goddess, enclosing the serpent of power. And yet, the true story is even more intriguing. In the same temple, other carvings show detailed astronomical ceilings, with depictions of constellations and celestial cycles. The priests of Dendera clearly had advanced knowledge of the heavens, if they were capable of such precise astronomical observation. Is it really unthinkable that they might have also experimented with natural energy sources, perhaps harnessing static charge or chemical reactions in ways we no longer recognize? Still, one undeniable fact remains. No physical evidence of ancient electrical devices has ever been discovered in Egypt. There are no copper wires, no carbon filaments, no glass bulbs buried in the sands. What we have instead is an enigmatic carving, a mystery etched in stone, open to interpretation. And perhaps that is why it fascinates us so much. It leaves room for imagination, wonder, and speculation. But the secrets behind this legend might surprise you even more. Egyptologists point out that, far from requiring electricity, the Egyptians had perfected the use of oil lamps and polished copper mirrors to illuminate their temples. These tools were simple, effective, and entirely consistent with the artifacts archaeologists have actually found. In fact, the sootless ceilings in tombs, once cited as proof of electric lighting, can also be explained by clever ventilation and the careful use of reflective light. So what then is the legacy of the Dendera bulb? For some, it is proof of a lost high technology, a relic of forgotten science. For others, it is a reminder of the richness of Egyptian symbolism, where every image carried layers of meaning, cosmic, spiritual, and mythological. And perhaps the real truth lies in the space between. The carving may not be a literal light bulb, but it may still represent something very real to the Egyptians: energy, creation, and the illumination of life itself. Even now, when visitors walk into the crypt at Dendera and gaze upon the strange carving, they feel a sense of awe, whether they see a flower, a womb, a cosmic serpent, or the world's first light bulb. The image refuses to give up its mystery. It bridges the gap between the ancient and the modern, reminding us that every age sees the past through its own lens. And maybe that is the point. The Dendera bulb challenges us not only to ask what the Egyptians knew, but also to reflect on how we interpret history itself. Are we uncovering ancient truths, or are we illuminating our own imaginations in the light of the past?